Hello, I'm Ben Lubchansky, and we're going to tie my design, the Jiggy Meaty Thingy. So grab yourself a good beer, and let's start drinking with scissors. Okay, so go ahead and load in your hook and bead. This is just a jig style hook with a 60-degree bend and a 4.6 millimeter tungsten slotted bead. Go ahead and tie in and then use several wraps to secure the bead so it doesn't slide around. And make your way to the back of the hook, not all the way to the bend. This is our dubbing, and any sort of dubbing that you can tease out well. And you're going to start to take a little bit and twist it, and then arrange the fibers on top of each other. Some of the Senyo's type dubbings work well, or anything that you can tease out, and anything that you can sort of pinch and wrap. Twist in and make a little bit of a tail. This is going to function like an overwing. Now we've got just a Zonker strip. Go ahead and tie that in to incorporate the tail and that sort of overwing, because remember we're tying upside down here. And give yourself about 1.25 inches worth of leather remaining behind. Take more of the dubbing. We're going to dub the body. And you notice here I've set up sort of in the middle of the hook, and we're actually going to dub back and then forward again. A little unconventional, but it's going to give us sort of an underbody and an overbody because we really want to tease this out. This is a pheasant body feather. Pheasant rump works really well. Strip off the fuzzy feathers, and then with a thicker stem, I usually strip off the away from me part of the feather. So if you're left or right hand, if you're going to strip off the side that's going to be away from you. Cut off the tag end, go ahead and tie that in. And make sure you leave a little gap between your thread and the bead. We're going to need that gap when we come back to it. Add some dubbing, about 2.5 inches worth of dubbing. So we're just going to do this neck section. And again, we're going to go back and forward again. So we build up a nice body of dubbing. Get some hackle pliers and wind that hackle through that fore section of the fly, the thorax, if you will. Go ahead and secure it. Cut off the stem. Cut down that little stub there and wrap that down. Now this is a high-tech piece of equipment, a little bit of Velcro, the hooks part, and really brush in that dubbing. Really get in there, work it back and forth, and really blend together those pheasant feather fibers and your dubbing fibers. And then brush all of it sort of down, as you can see, so it gets to the underside. These are going to be the legs and sort of body of that crayfish. Just a pair of rubber legs. These I think are Grizzly Flutter legs from hairline, and pinch a little loop in the middle of the legs. Bring them to the top part of the fly in that little gap that we left behind the bead. Secure them with a pinch wrap. Go over gently once, arrange it where you want it, and then delicately secure it with increasing tension with each wrap on the thread to come around, go in front of the legs against the bead, and then back over the legs one more time to secure it. And we're just going to dub on a teeny little collar worth of dubbing here, a couple 3 wraps, and now come in front of the legs, between the legs and the bead, and then that's where we're going to tie things off with a whip finish. And cut off, clip the loop to open that up. Give it a final little brush or two if necessary. And there you go. That's the Jiggy Meaty Thingy.
All right, Ben, how'd you come up with the Jiggy Meaty Thingy?
Well, it took a little while to get there. I started with my first pattern that I designed is called the Itty Meaty Thingy. And the long and short of that is I really wanted a leech pattern and essentially a woolly bugger that I could I could fish, excuse me, on a short line presentation. You can call it Euro nymphing or whatever you want to call it. It's a short tight line system where you're making relatively short casts, but sometimes longer ones. You want some versatility, and I wanted something that was like a woolly bugger that I could use in all these different situations, mostly leaning towards a short line system. And my concern with the original woolly bugger, number one, was that they're classically tied on a long hook shank. And in a short line system, that long hook shank is like too much leverage when you're setting the hook on a fly. And so I wanted a short shank type fly. And I ended up tying it on essentially an octopus style hook. And I wanted a fly that could really move like this. And so I used that short shank to free up the rabbit strip. And with a nice heavy bead in the front, and I could really steer that fly wherever I wanted, however I wanted. I could get this beautiful up and down or even side to side motion out of the fly. And when I went to set the hook with a quick wrist snap, that short little octopus style hook would just sickle right through the fish's jaw. And then I moved past that. I started using some jig style hooks and seeing some of the advantages there. And while they're not an end all be all, they are very good at what they're designed to do. And so I took that original Itty Meaty Thingy design and transported it onto a jig style hook to come up with the Jiggy Meaty Thingy. And since that sort of horizontal platform of that hook allowed for some rubber legs, and rubber legs seem to have a pretty good impact on things, I went ahead and added some rubber legs to really have sort of a jig style fly.
Nice. How do you like to fish this thing?
Again, I still like to fish it on a short line system, but what I really like about this fly is I don't have to change flies as I get to different types of water. As I'm making my way through the stream, if I'm fishing in a short lining through like a riffle run type system, then I'll be short lining it through, and I'll add some weight if I need to get it up or down. But then if I come to a glide in a pool or things like that, I can still cast this fly to targets upstream or through a pool and still strip it and retrieve it. I can fish it just like a streamer, and I can also fish it like a jig, an aggressive style, and jig nymph type thing or jig leech. And I also fish this thing plenty of times on the swing. If I'm making my way downstream, I'll fish it and swing it through riffles and runs. I will hand twist it through deep pools. I will really fish it however the water dictates, and I won't have to change flies to change water types or even to change tactics.
Awesome. Anything else?
Tires notes. Tires, you want to experiment with dubbings. I recommend buying 2 what they call slicker brushes. You can get them at a pet store. They're pretty inexpensive. They're also known as carding combs. And you can buy different materials and blend them together. I always like to have something translucent. I like to have something that's UV. I like to have something that's fluorescent. And those are different, UV and fluorescent. And something that's reflective, and maybe something that's refractive, and something that's natural. Plus, you will also need a binder. And mix those together and work them back and forth through those carding combs, and you can come up with really, really great blends that work for you. It's nice to have some sort of a teasable material, something that you can tease out with that little Velcro stick teasing tool or your dubbing teasing tool to sort of create this, what I call the halo of realism. It's sort of this like, it looks like a little bit like a carapace, or it looks a little bit like a translucent body or something like that without actually creating bulk. And so you can mix up some neat dubbings to incorporate in your flies and then tease those out. There's all kinds of good stuff. Rabbit will work, a mixture of rabbit and possum will work, and then there's all kinds of cool synthetics that will give you the UV properties. Some of them will give you the fluorescent properties. A lot of them will give you the reflective properties. Like I said, the Senyo's laser dub, I think, is a good base material. It's a polypropylene, usually with some UV blended into it. That works well, and then there's some other cool natural materials that you can work into as well. And yeah, blend your own dubbings and really tease these flies out. I think that's kind of the key, is really working the pheasant feathers and the dubbing materials together so that they'll sort of glue together and then puff up to create that illusion of realism.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that does it for this episode of Drinking with Scissors. Thanks for tuning in, and be sure to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with more Drinking with Scissors episodes. Also, do yourself a favor and head on over to blackearthangling.com to see all the awesome things we're up to. Until next time, cheers.